Hi, this is Clever Sausage, and I am going to look at the supposed lost books of Scripture of the Bible, those that weren't included in it because they're considered pseudepigrapha, not necessarily forgeries or fakes, more pseudepigrapha, which means that the author was unknown and or a date of the writings cannot be verified or is unknown. Okay, I'm going to read something from the Forgotten Books of Eden, edited by Rutherford H. Platt Jr. in 1926, so you fully understand what I'm trying to get at. Okay. This, the Forgotten Books of Eden, by Rutherford H. Platt Jr. in 1926, is a popularized translation of the OT or Old Testament pseudepigrapha. Okay, that's again where someone wrote a book, not necessarily fake or false or fraud. It's just that the author was unknown and the author and a date couldn't be verified. Okay. This is a popularized translation of the OT pseudepigrapha, quasi-Bible writings, which never achieved canonical status or inclusion in any of the official Apocrypha. This isn't to say that these documents are forgeries, just that for one reason or another they were not considered part of the biblical text by the first millennium CE Christian era compilers. This book contains translations of all of the texts found in Volume 1 of the weighty Oxford University Press Apocrypha and pseudepigrapha, without any of the apparatus. Okay, so we're going to start with the first book of Adam and Eve. Okay. And in that book, it reads, the first book of Adam and Eve, also called the conflict of Adam and Eve with Satan. Present day controversy that rages around the authenticity of the scriptures and how human life began on this planet must pause to consider the Adam and Eve story. Where does it come from? What does it mean? The familiar version in Genesis is not the source of this fundamental legend. It is not a spontaneous heaven-born account that sprang into place in the Old Testament. It is simply a version, unexcelled perhaps, but a version of a myth or belief or account handed down by word of mouth from generation to generation of mankind through the incoherent, unrecorded ages of man. It came like an inextinguishable ray of light that ties the time when human life began with the time when the human mind could express itself and the human hand could write. Okay, I find that before you even attempt to read and understand what an author has written and is trying to get across to his readers of that era and possible readers of the future, is to first, his suggestion, go and find my video on my channel called Dianetics, the important note, missing note from that book, Dianetics, the Science of Mental Health, because that will help you to understand how to study correctly. It's a study help, a study guide to better study, so that you will learn how to define words. Okay, so you won't have any misunderstoods or misunderstandings, any words that are undefined or no definition for, because this apparently is where you go wrong, and you get bored with something, you can't stick to it, you can't focus, and you just chuck it aside, right? So you never achieve that study assignment or written report or book that you had in mind. Okay, and also here's another tip. Okay, say the author here is Rutherford H. Platt, Jr., 1926. Copy and paste this guy's name. Okay. Don't worry about the date so much. Okay. Put it in a URL and find out the history of this guy. Because, as I said in one of my other videos, okay, let's just go to Wikipedia, because it's there, and basically read up on what this guy was about. Okay, he served in World War One by the look of it. 23rd Field Artillery, right, and he wrote a history of his unit. He's got a bachelor's degree in 1918, so he's got some clout behind him. Okay, here's his family history, books he's written, references about the guy, I suppose. Not really that much history on him. Okay, only the small family history. Because why I suggest you go and find out about people is because I was undertaking a book once called by Anthony Kidman, as I mentioned in an earlier video. It was called From Thought to Action, a self-help manual. He had some part in it, right? He was with helping these other authors, right? Okay, so I was planning on studying it because I had that book for a while, sitting on my bookshelf, going dust. Thought I might use it. But this little voice in my head kept nagging and nagging at me. You don't know anything about this guy. Go and do a history check-up on him. I was like, yeah, whatever, you know. Just pushed to the side, but this voice kept nagging and nagging at me for probably a whole day or so. So I finally buckled, gave in, right, and went and checked out the history of this guy, Anthony Kidman, who's got a PhD, okay, and I found out the guy was accused of being in a sex cult, like in the little children, you know how they go, these pedo cults, and he was up on charges, right, and he happened to be the father of world-renowned famous actress, Australian actress, Nicole Kidman, ex-wife of Tom Cruise. Yeah, so this lady, or a couple of ladies, were accusing him and the lady's grandfather and whoever of being in this cult and abusing him since they were little, right? So yeah, but unfortunately he died before he went to trial. But at least I had that background information on the guy, okay? I got the dirt on him. Well, someone else already got the dirt on him, but I just, like, you know, read up on the guy, found out the dirt on the guy. So it made me wary. Should I be influenced by a guy that was in a sex cult? You know, because maybe it could be something like Erasmus, the ancient scribe, or old scribe that went to Oxford and all sorts of scholar, who was caught by the parents of one of his students trying to seduce him. So yeah, he may have influenced Jerome's. We revised Jerome's writings, then finished it, right? New Testament, as someone else has suggested in their video on their channel, right? That he may have been a closet homosexual, because he ran off after that and tried to be a womanizer, but apparently went back to how he was. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So he may have put some hidden homosexual undertones in his writings, right? So that's why these people on a certain channel and certain video give this other religious group crap, because their way of greeting each other is kissing each other on the lips. Okay? Yeah, and it's just something that happened, you know. And this guy went through it, and the history of Erasmus, and pulled out all the stuff that he could have been a closeted homosexual and whatever. Apparently William Shakespeare and Francis Bacon, who sat on the panel, a committee that did the new revised version of the Latin text into English, being commissioned by King James to do so, were two homosexuals. But apparently, what I saw in the news was William Shakespeare never existed. It was just a figment of the imagination created, and all the writings were by Francis Bacon. But you have to go do your own research in history. You have to go do your own research on that history, right? Okay, anyway, so yeah, that's a good idea to go and check out about that reader. What was he like in real life, you know? What was history? What was his background history? What did he get up to behind the scenes? Okay. Okay. So back to this Adam and Eve book. The conflict of Adam and Eve with Satan. Okay. We'll go back here a bit. The familiar version in Genesis is not the source of this fundamental legend. It is not a spontaneous heaven-born account that sprang into place in the Old Testament. It is simply a version, unexcelled perhaps, but a version of a myth, or belief, or account handed down by word of mouth from generation to generation of mankind through the incoherent, unrecorded ages of man that came, like an indistinguishable ray of light that ties the time when human life began with the time when the human mind could express itself and the human hand could write. Logic and common sense. Does that make sense? Okay, because yeah, you have a look at the ancient Sumerian texts, i.e. the flood myth, the creation myth, and so forth, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and it's all mythical because they had a pantheon of gods, right? And they called these mystical creatures and stuff like that. And then there's one of the flood, and the guy had a different name. And his name before now was like Pancham or something like that. Okay, and the ark rested on a mountain. I was on the seas for like 6 days or something, and after that, you know, the waters dried up. Pretty similar to the Bible story, but the name of the main character is different because in the Babylonian cuneiform text, translated by Irving Finkel, speak of a god, probably Enku or something like that, or Anu, something like that, that loved the creation of these aliens, these alien conglomeration, whatever, these alien gods, who were going to flood the whole earth and then just take off because they were sick of their creations, right? They really cheesed them off. So this god suggested that to this boat builder, make a boat or an ark according to step-by-step instructions that this god of a pantheon was going to give them. So he did, and they all survived, and mankind carried on. So what they've done is they've adopted those stories, right, and adapted it. They changed some certain names and details, and right, and then you come up with the Noah's Ark story. Okay, and then you got Christians, were running around saying, oh, the Noah's Ark was found here and here and here, whatever, and this side's according to the Bible, and then you get opposition that would say, okay, say Joe Rogan, for example, saying, well, it could be any boat from any era, could be coincidence. Oh, but it's been proven. Yeah, but it still could have been any boat, and so forth, so forth. Anyway, yeah, so there's a piece of information for you. Many Christians will say, no, the word of God is infallible, every word is true. Okay, as it says here, it's not the source of familiar version in Genesis is not the source of this fundamental legend. It is not a spontaneous heaven-born account that sprang into place in the Old Testament. It is simply a version, unexcelled perhaps, but a version of a myth or belief or account handed down by word of mouth from generation to generation of mankind through the incoherent, unrecorded ages of man it came. Okay, and I've just given you the source where it all came from. Okay, because the Jews, these are the Arameans, Judeans, or Yehudi, who later called themselves Jews, because of the first 2 letters of that word, the Jude, Judeans, they called themselves Jews. Okay, these are the original Jews, or this is supposed original Jews. There's a conflict between the African Americans saying that they're the real Jews. The real Jews are black. Okay, look at it. Is it Simcha Jovovich? Some name like that. The naked archaeologist. He actually went on one of his videos, documentaries. He actually went to Israel and all these other countries and found that they had been spread out through slavery, probably by the Assyrians, put on boats, spread out everywhere, sold as slaves, sold into slavery, all that sort of stuff. And there was Indians, Asians who were militant, gone militant, Ethiopians, black Jews. Yeah, there's a whole range of them, and then obviously the light-skinned Jews in Israel. Okay, so yeah, but how they realise that these are Jews is because the Jews in Israel have a certain recipe for, I don't know, bread or some ritual meal they have, and one of the Jews went there and watched these people to verify if they actually were, or they were just faking it, right? And they made this bread. He never told them the recipe. They made it exactly, or this meal, exactly how they make it in Israel. The Jews make it in Israel. And that's what blew his mind, So they're all related. They're just different colours. They come from one point, apparently, or one land, one area, one region, captured, sold into slavery, possibly by the Assyrians or somebody else like that. Yeah, okay, this is the most ancient story in the world. It has survived because it embodies the basic fact of human life, a fact that has not changed one iota amid all the superficial changes of civilization's vivid array. This fact remains the conflict of good and evil, the fight between man and the devil, the eternal struggle of human nature against sin. Okay, everybody knows of good and evil, conflict of good and evil, fight between man and the devil, his temptations, his desires, his lusts, the eternal struggle of human nature against sin and the devil and temptation, etc. Everybody's familiar with that, right? Whether they deny, well, that's the devil, it's all in the mind, all that sort of stuff, you still have a problem with it, right? You can't be a goody-goody 24/7, can you? Okay, it's a balance, positive and negative, okay? But you still do wrong. Knowing good, you still do wrong there. So you sin, you transgress, okay? That the Adam and Eve story pervaded the thoughts of ancient writers is seen in the large number of versions that exist, or whose existence may be traced through the writings of Greeks, Syrians, Egyptians, Abyssinians, Hebrews, and other ancient peoples. As a lawyer might say, who examines so much apparently unrelated evidence, there must be something back of it. The version which we give here is the work of unknown Egyptians. The lack of historical allusion makes it impossible to date the writing. Parts of this version are found in the Talmud, the Quran, and elsewhere, showing what a vital role it played in the original literature of human wisdom. The Egyptian author first wrote in Arabic. Well, to start off with, there was no Arabic. Okay, there's ik, okay, which may be taken as the original manuscript, and that found its way farther south and was translated into Ethiopic. Yeah, there was no Ethiopic either. Okay, and there was no Arabia, and there was no Ethiopia. Why? Oh, what makes you say that? Because there's Arabia today, and there's people who speak Arabic. Okay, ik, ear, they are in prefixes. Go and get that word defined online, right? And it'll tell you that it's a in prefix, and it's a loan word, okay, that the Greeks or the Latins gave to these people because these people spoke a language in a certain region, because they didn't have borders and all that sort of stuff at the time, right? They just had regions that they were in, and they spoke a language, and obviously they spoke that language, right? Okay, and other people spoke other languages in different regions, so they were considered the possessors of that, the owners of it, right? Okay, it belonged to them, so that's why they put on the end this loan word ik. So when anyone ever asked them, oh, where did you go? I went to Arabia, a region called Arabia, right, where these Arabs were. Arabs, define that word. A whole lot of people, nomads, that just wander around in the desert. They could be all Semitic, which is a mixture of different peoples that maybe came together, married each other, married into through different groups, whatever, and had descendants, right? So there were a bunch of different people, a mix of different people. That's why they're called Semitic, right? Semitic. Semi is half, right? Semit, and you got the yek on the end of that word as well. Okay, so that's a loan word as well. For the present English translation, we are indebted to Dr. S.C. Mallan, Vicar of Broadwinster, maybe that's in England, who worked from the Ethiopic edition edited by Dr. E. Trump. So it's got two P's, it's not Donald Trump. You're probably not related to Donald Trump. Professor at the University of Munich. Okay, he's German, probably. Dr. Trump had the advantage of the Arabic original, which makes our bridge over the gap of many centuries a direct one. So, yeah, there's no ik and there's no ear. They're both loan words. Okay. So the Greeks or the Latins went in and says, oh, what are you speaking? And they said, oh, we're speaking the language of our forefathers, of our ancestors, Aramaic, Arab, whatever, you understand? Okay, and they just happened to be in that area. So again, they gave the ik and the ear in prefixes or loan words from the Greek and the Latin. Go check out the etymology of ik and ear. The reading of these books is an adventure. You will find the mind of man fed by the passions, hopes and fears of new and strange earthly existence, rioting unrestrained in the zest of self-expression. You roam in the realms of mythology where swiftly the aspects of nature assume manifold personalities, and the amorphous instinct of sin takes on the grotesqueries of a visible devil. From such imaginative surroundings you find yourself suddenly staring at a commonplace, unvarnished events of family life. Such a family as the first earthly family was, they had all the troubles, all the petty disagreements, and the taking sides with one another, and the bother and staying with the baby. Then in the total mark family life today. Okay, read that again. From such imaginative surroundings you find yourself suddenly staring at commonplace, unvarnished events of family life. And such a family as, quote, the first earthly family, unquote, was. They had all the troubles, all the petty disagreements, and the taking sides with one another, and the bother moving, and, quote, staying with the baby, unquote, that in the total mark family life today. That in the total mark family life today. You will see it when you peep beneath the overlaying glamour of tradition. Okay. One critic has said of this writing, this is, we believe, the greatest literary discovery that the world has known. Its effect upon contemporary thought and moulding the judgment of the future generations is of incalculable value. The treasures of Tutankhamun's tomb were no more precious to the Egyptologists than are these literary treasures to the world of scholarship. But we prefer to let the reader make his own exploration and form his own opinion. The writing is arresting enough to inspire very original thoughts concerning it. In general, this account begins where the Genesis story of Adam and Eve leaves off. Thus the two can not well be compared. Here we have a new chapter, a sort of sequel to the other. Here is the story of the twin sisters of Cain and Abel, and it is notable that here the blame for the first murder is placed squarely at the door of a difference over woman. The plan of these books is as follows. Book 1. The careers of Adam and Eve, from the day they left Eden, their dwelling in the cave of treasures, their trials and temptations, Satan's manifold apparitions to them, the birth of Cain, of Abel, and of their twin sisters, Cain's love for his own twin sister, Luluwa. Okay, it could be Lilith? Luluwa. I just found a new nickname for my daughter's friend. I'm going to say her name's Lilith. No, it's actually not. It's, oh my gosh. Lorraine, I think. Yeah, I think call her Luluwa. I said a lolly. Anyway, whom Adam and Eve wished to join to Abel. The details of Cain's murder of his brother and Adam's sorrow and death. Book 2, the history of the patriarchs who lived before the flood. A dwelling of the children of Seth on the holy mountain, Mount Hermon, until they were lured by Hinnon and the daughters of Cain. They come down from the mountain. Cain's death when slain by Lamech the blind, and the lives of other patriarchs until the birth of Noah. Okay, just a note here. This is probably from the Hebrew, which is supposed to be the oldest sister of the ancient Aramaic. the ancient Hebrew before the Masoretes got a hold of it, added vowels and a dot system, which totally changed the structure, not only the structure, but the meaning of the words. So ancient Aramaic or Assyrian Aramaic, Asherit, Kitav Asherit, the ancient Hebrew, they had the same words, right, with the same meanings, until supposedly the Masoretes got a hold of it, messed with it, added the dot, changed the structure, and by adding the vowel system, the dot system. Yeah, so after the dot system, vowel system came in. I've forgotten the actual name of the thing. They did it with Islam as well. Yeah. Until then, after that, well, basically, the similar words but different meanings. Okay. Yeah. So in regard to that, what I'm trying to get at is, if you ever read native-born Mesopotamian Aramaic speaking translator, publisher, filmmaker, Mesopotamian historian Victor N. Alexander's translation of the ancient Kitav Asherit, or Assyrian Aramaic or Asherit manuscripts, Old Testament manuscripts, compiled in Edessa around 800 BCE into English. And know anything about his website, or ever read his website, you can't read it now because it's down like this, so I can't show you it as well. To verify this, just say you have to trust me on it. When he translated it into English, he got shebang. He got a shock to find that this was the only translation, right, or of those scriptures, or the scriptures of Bereshit, Genesis, right, that agreed with the findings of science and I guess archaeologists, right, where there was a pre-Adamic man. There was a man before, there's Adam before Adam, a Neanderthal man. Okay, so he writes as part of his website, which nobody I know out there is covering it, right? It was called the Theory of the Aborigines. Okay, he's not referring to the Australian Aborigines. He's using that term to explain away the Neanderthal man, the pre-Adamic man. Okay, the Adam before Adam. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. So, okay, let's quote Genesis 1 verse 1 from that. Okay, I don't actually have that book because the guy's in hospital or something. Can't get hold of him through email and purchase that copy of that Genesis into English, right? But what I recall from it, Genesis 1 verse 1 in that translation read as, in the beginning, and Victor N. Alexander actually explained in the Aramaic, it's really as the beginning, in the beginning as the beginning, or as that beginning. The manifestation, right, that which was hidden, was not revealed, wasn't yet revealed, created the heaven and the earth, created, made, produced, and brought into existence the heaven and the earth, everything on the earth, right, through nature, the animals, fish in the sea, and then eventually man and woman, right? Okay. Which in his Aramaic New Testament, that's the supposed original manuscripts from the Galilean Aramaic, original manuscripts from the original church, given by the original two disciples to those priests who hid them for 2,000 years, therefore preserved them. It says, in the beginning, the Multa created the heavens and earth. Okay. In English, there's no equivalent for the Aramaic word Multa, right? So the closest one he could find, the nearest one he could find, was manifestation, that which was hidden, that which wasn't revealed, but that which dwelled in the midst of God. He was a companion of God. He was near God, close by. However, it's the word is defined, right? With, right, and manifestation. Okay. That manifestation, or that multa or that manifestation created everything, right? Made everything and brought everything into existence. Without him, as the rest of John 1 to 3 or 4 says, without him, nothing would exist. All things made through him. He was with God. He's in his presence. He's his companion. He's nearby. He's close by. He's in the presence of. He was with God, and he was God. Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah, I had my doubts of that for other different reasons, but then I come to the realization. Yeah, okay. In the Eastern mindset and Eastern text, that indicates throughout those Aramaic, Galilean Aramaic manuscripts or texts into English, that's what it's actually saying. It's verifying it. I had a bit of a questionnaire with that translator, but he says you have a funny way of looking at Christ. He is God according to these old scriptures, original scriptures. Yeah, it comes out like that. It took me a while to get my head around it. Okay, yeah, they're all part of this triunion, right? All working together as one for one purpose, to create a way to bring man back to God, because man was separated from God through sin, and so forth, so forth. Okay, let's get back to this. Okay, so there's a little bit of history there for you. If you get hold of that Genesis by Victor N. Alexander, you probably get it at Amazon or somewhere, where they have so much extra money to pay out. Get a hold of it and read it. It's a pity it didn't have the website, because it's more extensive as well. But it might be in that Genesis in English account, what I was talking about. I have asked him on his videos on YouTube if he's going to deal with that, and he's never really got back to me. He's never got back to me on it. I asked him, when are you going to explain to these people, or in detail, about your theory of the Aborigine and what you found in the book of Bereshit or Genesis when you translated it? Okay, now he's totally disappeared. Apparently he's always in the hospital and he's losing it, something like that. Okay, so going to the next one, which is chapter 1. Okay, Book 1, Chapter 1, the Crystal Sea. God commands Adam, expelled from Eden, to dwell in the Cave of Treasures. On the third day, God planted the gardens in the east of the earth, on the border of the world, eastward, beyond which, toward the sun rising, one finds nothing but water that encompasses the whole world and reaches unto the borders of heaven. And to the north of the garden there is a sea of wafer, clear and pure to the taste. Is this wafer or water? It says wafer there. Pretty sure that says wafer. And this is one of those funny old English teas. Pretty sure it says wafer. Clear and pure to the taste, like unto nothing else, so that through the clearness thereof one may, maybe it's an old English word for water, look into the depths of the earth. And when a man washes himself in it, becomes clean of the cleanness thereof, and white of its whiteness, even if he were dark. Okay. And God created that sea of his own good pleasure, for he knew what would come of the man he should make, so that after he had left the garden, on account of his transgression, men should be born in the earth, from among whom righteous ones should die, whose souls of God would raise at the last day, when they should return to their flesh, should bathe in the water of that sea, and all of them repent of their sins. It sounds a bit dodgy there. Doesn't sound right there. Okay, but when God made Adam go out of the garden, he did not place him on the border of it northward, lest he should drive near to the sea of water, and he and Eve wash themselves in it, be cleansed from their sins, forget the transgression they had committed, and be he no longer reminded of it in the thought of their punishment. So what, they come from immortality, they were immortal, they sinned or they fell, broke the command, transgressed whatever, so they become mortal. So yeah, they were immortal, so spiritually, they're spiritual beings that never die, live on, right? But then they transgressed, they sinned, so they became mortal, or were aware of, you know, that they were naked, all that sort of stuff, as Jesus says, and then they, at some point, died the physical death that we all will, right? Okay, okay, so it sounds like, okay, they sinned and they can, you know, they can go back to this clear, pure water, and you know, be cleansed of their sins and become immortal again. Okay. Then again, as to the southern side of the garden, God was not pleased to let Adam and Eve dwell there, because when the wind blew from the north, it would bring him on that southern side the delicious smell of the trees of the garden. Wherefore God did not put Adam there, lest he should smell the sweet smell of those trees, forget his transgression, and find consolation for what he had done. Take delight in the smell of the trees, and not be cleansed from his transgression. Again, also because God is merciful and of great pity, and governs all things in a way he alone knows, he made our father Adam dwell in the western border of the garden, because on that side of the earth is very broad, and God commanded him to dwell there in a cave, in a rock, the cave of treasures below the garden. Yeah. Okay. Well, this same website, sacredtext.com, actually has here, and I think I'll go. Maybe I won't go back to it. Just read it. Go back to it later. You can look at it yourself. Whatever. I'll leave a link for you down below, underneath this video. It says here in the African section, ultimately, we are all Africans. Studies of mitochondrial DNA have proven that all human beings are descended from a small population, less than 100 individuals, that emerged from Africa, that's not its original name, about 60,000 years ago. Apparently that's what took the Aborigines, who are now the indigenous people of Australia, right? That's how long it took them to get to Australia from supposedly from Africa or wherever they originally came from. Yeah, it's been claimed as fact, right? One of those geologists or archaeologists or who the guy was in Australia. Okay, and the earliest written religious texts, as well as the first documented monotheistic religion. Okay, it's the first documented. Make note of that. The first documented monotheistic religion, that probably would be of Aton. What's his name? Natan, something like that. Yeah, who believed in Ra, the sun god, right, and so forth. Go check out the history on that. Yourself, go do your research on that. Yeah, okay, so here's supposedly the grandfather, forefather, founder of the first ever, as it says here, documented monotheistic religion. Okay, the earliest written religious texts, as well as the first documented monotheistic religion, also developed in Africa. During the European Dark Ages, many ancient manuscripts were preserved in African libraries in places such as Ethiopia and Timbuktu. Finding books about African religion and spiritual beliefs in the public domain was not difficult. These books have a great amount of useful information on this topic, some of it written before, emphasize before there, colonization or colonialism destroyed or greatly modified aspects of traditional culture. The problem with these works is that they were, for the large, written by Europeans, with their particular biases and agendas. For this reason, one is encouraged to read between the lines. There are also texts and books with alternative views, primarily written by African Americans, which, in the opinion of sacredtext.com, also deserve some consideration. Okay. So make a note of that one. Okay. So anyone out there who knows anything about mitochondrial DNA can give us more information on that. You know, so we're not talking a whole lot of rubbish, right? Or something we don't know nothing about, because admittedly I don't know much about DNA. Okay. Yes. So apparently, I remember seeing this documentary about this guy that went all over the world. He met up with 7 people from Tibet, I think. Tibet. And they said that they were all related to, they believe they were related to Genghis Khan, DNA-wise. So as he was going around the world getting DNA from all different cultures and stuff, and you know, looking at it and matching it, and yeah, basically doing tests on these people. He did tests on these 7 Tibetans who made this claim, right? And apparently 6 out of 7 actually did have the DNA of Genghis Khan. So they were descendants of Genghis Khan, because Genghis Khan was like a savage warrior, conquered, and yeah, had thousands and thousands of children apparently. So yeah, they were proven to be descendants of Genghis Khan. Okay, so he was saying, yeah, he felt that Adam and Eve, as we know through Genesis, may not have existed or didn't exist, but there may have been a mitochondrial Adam and Eve, right? Supposedly there was, it all goes back to one woman, black woman in Africa. Okay, he traced it all the way back to one woman, black woman from Africa, right? Yeah. So moving on, next chapter 2. Yeah, don't forget that this is supposedly by a Egyptian. Okay, it's not by no Hebrew Israelite, Jew, or anything like that. It's written by firstly written by an Egyptian. Okay, but there's no they're unable to find a date. Okay, and it's translated in English by obviously a European guy. Okay, Rutherford H. Platt Jr., 1926. Okay, chapter 2. Adam and Eve faint upon leaving the garden. God sends His word to encourage them. But when our father Adam and Eve went out of the garden, they trod on the ground on their feet, not knowing they were treading. And when they came to the opening of the gates of the garden and saw the broad earth spread before them, covered with stones, large and small, and with sand, they feared and trembled, and fell on their faces from the fear that came upon them, and they were as dead. Because whereas they had hitherto been in a garden land, beautifully planted with all manner of trees, they now saw themselves in a strange land which they knew not and had never seen. And because at that time they were filled with the grace of a bright nature, and they had not hearts turned towards earthly things, therefore had God pity on them, and when He saw them fallen before the gate of the garden, He sent His word unto Father Adam and Eve, and raised them from their fallen state. Okay, did He send, i.e. Christ, Jesus, right? Or did He just send a message to them through somebody else, like, you know, His Son, or the motor, or the manifestation of God, whatever, right? Or did He send an angel? Okay. Okay, so I'm trying to look for the part where they actually sinned. But, well, I think we went past that. They were sinned, but it doesn't go into great detail. Yeah, it's quite a long book. Okay, you can read it in your own time. We're going to skip through it for a while here because it's quite lengthy. Okay, so they're living in a cave, i.e. probably where the first cavemen came from. They correct me on that one. Adam said again to Eve, "What is our body today compared to what it was in former days when we dwelt in the garden?" After this, Adam did not like to enter the cave under the overhanging rock, nor would he ever have entered it. But he bowed to God's orders and said to himself, unless I enter the cave, I shall again be a transgressor. Okay, he's breaking the command of God. Live in the cave. Okay. Then Adam and Eve entered the cave and stood praying in their own tongue unknown to us, but which they knew well. Okay, they're having a emotional moment because they're in a cave and they can't see God, can't see the sky and all that sort of stuff by the looks of it. Okay, trying to find the part where there's a part where the serpent or the devil comes up to them. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to find where the devil. Oh, with it, the wicked Satan. See? But the wicked Satan, who continued not in his first estate, nor kept his faith, in whom was no good intent towards me, and who though I had created him, yet set me at naught, and knelt and sought the Godhead, so that I hurled him down from heaven. He it is who made the tree appear pleasant in your eyes, until you ate of it by hearkening to him. Okay, so this is saying Satan, as the Bible states throughout it, that he was, the angel who rebelled, who continued not in his first estate, his proper place, nor kept his faith, in whom was no good intent towards God, though he had created him. Right. He sought the Godhead, he wanted to sit above God, have his own seat, above God. So God threw him out after his transgression. Okay, his rebellion, him and his angels, 1/3 of the angels apparently. Okay, so that's what it says here. Again, it's according to the Egyptian that wrote it and the guy Platt, that junior that translated it. Okay. And they whip some more and wine some more. Okay. Then the beast did obedience to Adam according to the commandment of God, except the serpent, against which God was wroth, did not come to Adam with the beasts. Okay, I'm trying to find some things that the and they're crying again. Oh my gosh, this man not done crying. Well, when Adam and Eve had heard these words from God, they went their way, praising and worshipping him with a sorrowful heart, and God ceased to commune with them. Okay. I'm trying to find something with the devil here. Keep weeping a lot, whining a lot. There's a lot of whining and weeping in here. Well, I guess they're sad because they're separated from God. Trying to find the parts where the devil comes on the scene. Hardcore. Mainly conversation between God, Adam and Eve. Okay. Okay. God ceased to commune with Adam quite a bit. Okay. Okay. Again said God unto Adam, all this misery that thou hast been made to take upon thee, because of thy transgression, will not free them from the hand of Satan, and will not save them, but I will. Okay, when I shall come down from heaven, and shall become flesh of thy seed. Okay, so there you go. He's confirming there that Jesus is God, right? This Ethiopian, and this guy that's translating it, right? From the Ethiopian, from the Egyptian, right? The Egyptian wrote it, this guy's translating it into English. And it's just verified here. Chapter 14, verse 4, but I will, when I shall come down from heaven, and shall become flesh of thy seed, and take upon me the infirmity from which thou sufferest, Then the darkness that came upon thee in this cave shall come upon me in the grave when I am in the flesh of thy seed. Okay, so it's prophesying about the Christ, is it not? Okay. Yeah, but remember, this is a mythical book. Okay. It's a pseudepigrapha. Okay, author unknown and date of writing unknown. Then Adam and Eve wept and sorrowed by reason of God's word to them that they should not return to the garden until the fulfillment of the days decreed upon them, but mostly because God had told them that He should suffer for their salvation. Okay. That should make a lot of Christians happy. And goes on and on. Okay. There's the devil involved in this. Okay, but as they drew near to it, then Adam and Eve came out at the mouth of the cave and went towards the garden. But as they drew near to it, before the western gate from which Satan came when he deceived Adam and Eve, they found the serpent that became Satan coming at the gate, and sorrowfully licking the dust and wriggling on its breast on the ground by reason of the curse that fell upon it from God. Yeah, because when Eve pointed the finger, the serpent beguiled me, tricked me, so I ate. He had legs. He stood upright. Okay. Boom. Legs gone. Is cursed. Had to eat the dust of the ground and crawl on its belly. Yeah, here we go. And whereas aforetime the serpent was the most exalted of all the beasts, now it was changed and become slippery and the meanest of them all. And it crept on its breast and went on its belly. And whereas it was the fairest of all beasts, it had been changed and was become the ugliest of them all. Instead of feeding on the best food, it now turned to eat the dust. Instead of dwelling as before in the best places, it now lived in the dust. Yeah, dust meaning rodents, anything that was made of the earth, rats, rodents, mice, whatever. And whereas it had been the most beautiful of all beasts, all of which stood dumb at its beauty, it was now abhorred of them. Yeah, that's why they tried to run from it. Yeah, and again, whereas it dwelt in one beautiful abode to which all other animals came from elsewhere, and where it drank, they drank also of the same. Now after it had become venomous, by reason of God's curse, all beasts fled from its abode and would not drink of the water it drank, but fled from it. Yeah, because slippery snake coming on top of the water, sinks its fans into its legs or whatever, poisons him. Okay. When the accursed serpent saw Adam and Eve, it swelled its head, stood on its tail, and with eyes blood red did as if it would kill them. It made straight for Eve and ran after her, while Adam, standing by, wept because he had no stick in his hand wherewith to smite the serpent, and knew not how to put it to death. But with a heart burning for Eve, Adam approached the serpent and held it by the tail, when it turned towards him and said unto him, O Adam, because of thee and of Eve I am slippery and go upon my belly. Then by reason of its great strength it threw down Adam and Eve and pressed upon them, as if it would kill them. So that would be like a boa constrictor, maybe, that sort of size. But God sent an angel who threw the serpent away from them and raised him up. Well, maybe it wasn't that big after all. Then the word of God came to the serpent and said unto it, In the first instance I made thee glib, and made thee to go upon thy belly, but it did not deprive thee of speech. Now, however, be thou dumb, and speak no more, thou and thy race, because in the first place has the ruin of my creatures happened through thee, and now thou wishest to kill them. Then the serpent was struck dumb and spake no more. Okay, so yeah, wow, it supposedly spoke once upon a time. And it got its voice taken away from it. Okay. And a wind came to blow from heaven by command of God, that carried away the serpent from Adam and Eve, threw it on the seashore, and it landed in India. Okay, so is that where Indians like playing around with snakes? They're really good at it too. Snake charmers. Okay. Okay, so Goes on about none of the beasts will be able to hurt them. Whoa, I don't know about that one. Animals will eat man if they're hungry. Giant animals, big animals. Oh, maybe the animals at the time didn't do that. Yeah, so it goes on and on. Where did the children come in here? Come up on this. What? Oh, he committed suicide. Adam threw himself down from the top of that mountain. His face was torn. Or was it torn? Is that torn? Looks like torn from here. And his flesh was flayed. Much blood flowed from him, and he was nigh unto death. Okay, and Eve cried after him. I wish not to live after him, for all that he did to himself was through me. And she threw herself after him, was torn and scotched by stones, and remained lying as dead. But the merciful God, who looks upon his creatures, looked upon Adam and Eve as they lay dead, and he sent his word unto them and raised them. Yeah, I think, yeah, his speech. I think it's his speech. And said to his voice, and said to Adam, O Adam, all this misery which thou hast wrought upon thyself, will not avail against my rule, neither will it alter the covenant of the 5,500 years. Okay. And he goes on some more. Okay. I think we might leave that one for now. What's this? Where's this? 16:1. Original of the Lord's Prayer, said to be used about 150 years before our Lord. Our Father who art in heaven, be gracious unto us. Our Lord, our God, hallowed be thy name, and let the remembrance of thee be glorified in heaven above and upon earth here below. Let thy kingdom reign over us now and forever. The holy men of old said, remit and forgive unto all men whatsoever they have done unto me. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil thing. For thine is the kingdom, and thou shalt reign in glory forever and forevermore. Amen. Yeah, it's pretty lengthy. So what we might do, okay, we might go back. Have a look at the quick look at the next one. Okay. In that series, okay, lost books, where we probably got, where are they? Way down here somewhere. Okay, there's quite a lot of information here. What's in the New Testament, Old Testament. Okay, quite a lot of books here. Lost books of the Bible. Okay, so old painting there. Madonna with the book, Sandro Botticelli. Obviously Italian, 1483. Okay. Yeah, okay, there's quite a lot of them here. Can read. Okay. Lost letters of Herod and Pilate. These are all probably all pseudepigrapha. This is the collection of New Testament Apocrypha, including many works which were admired and read by the early Christians, but which were later excluded from the canonical Bible. It includes accounts of the young Jesus, particularly the Gospel of Mary and the Proto-Evangelion, which provides additional folklore about the birth and youthful adventures of Jesus. Of note are the letters of Paul and Seneca, and the letters of Herod and Pilate, which are most likely a forgery, but add more depth to the question of the historicity of Jesus. There are also a number of non-canonical epistles, such as Laodiceans. Also worth a closer read are the 3 books on the shepherds of Hermas, which uses apocalyptic and symbolic imagery. This collection is an invaluable selection of portions of the New Testament, which illustrates the fluid nature of the early biblical canon and provides access to all of the spare parts. J.B. Hare, August 12, 2009. Although not attributed, the initials of the editor, Rutherford H. Platt Jr., appear on the preface. He also edited the companion volume, The Forgotten Books of Eden, a collection of Old Testament Apocrypha. Okay. This is where we were, right? Okay, so you got the second book of Adam, the book of the Secrets of Enoch, and many, many more that you can have a read in your own time. Okay, so a quick peek at this one. Second book of Adam and Eve. grief-stricken family, Cain marries Luluwa, and they move. Okay, so is this Lilith? When Luluwa heard Cain's words, she wept and went to her father and mother and told them how that Cain had killed his brother Abel. Okay. Cain marries Luluwa. It's not Lilith. Okay. Need to read properly. Highlight it if you must. The grief-stricken family, Cain marries Luluwa and they move away. So I'm going to show you something. Okay, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to show you something that I found from the historians. Okay, so I can find it in here. Might be here somewhere. Where was it? First real Pope. What the hell's the name of the thing? In the religious section here. Okay, where was it? It was the. Let's just establish that one. There was one of the Nestorians. I can't remember which book it was, and it was talking about Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, but it had claimed that that Cain, when Cain was born to Eve, he actually had a sister that was born with him at the same time. And then when Abel was born, he had a sister born to him at the same time, right? At a different time, but at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, there was Cain and Abel, Cain and his sister first, and then later, Eve had Abel and the sister, right? And then, when Cain goes to the land of Nod, he actually married his sister before that and moved there with his children. Her children do. Okay, so I just can't remember which book it was. Could be. I don't think it was this one. It might have been. Oh, jeez. I should remember. I did a video on this thing. So yeah, Book of the Bee. That was what it was called. Book of the Bee. Okay. The Book of the Bee, the Syriac text edited from the manuscript in London, Oxford and Munich with an English translation by Ernest A. Wallace Budge. So, what I'm going to do, end this video here because it's probably quite long and nobody really wants to watch a 3-hour long video. So what I'm going to do, as I said, I'm just going to leave that there. And if you really want to know about this book, you can go look it up yourself and study it yourself, and then compare what I say about it, or wait for the next video, or 10,000 subscribers. Just joking. 100 subscribers. Still joking. Let's say 20 subscribers will get you, an in-depth review on this book. Okay, most will say 50,000 or less. Yeah, okay, get real, bro. Yeah, comments and likes, and that'll encourage me to, to make the effort to present this book in its entirety or in portions. Yeah, would you rather see it in 15-minute spouts rather than 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour videos? Okay, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to tap that geek. It's the one with the glasses and the 2 thumbs up, right? And subscribe to my channel, add your comments, whether you liked it or you hated it, and we'll see you when we see you.